planet, but the greatest evidence for the existence of humanity can only be found in Africa. So Africa is the place where everything began. So we have to begin to see Africa through different eyes. Since Africa was the birthplace of humanity, we also have to acknowledge the fact that Africa is the birthplace of civilization. And Dr. Ben has devoted his life to teaching us about the Nile Valley origins of civilization. And it's in the Nile Valley where you can find the first organized method of relating to a force more powerful than you, an unseen force. There were literally thousands of texts that were written by our ancestors thousands of years ago that talked about ways of cultivating a relationship with this force so that you could empower yourself, because they knew something that we've forgotten. You know, what's interesting, let me just share this with you. I've been traveling to Kemet for 22 years, and have probably been there maybe about 35, 36 times. You know, the first couple of times you go, you know, you're very excited about being there, and you're tripping out on the fact that, oh, we were here, and we built this, and we did that. But after you get past all of that, and realize that the Arabs control this land, and we ain't never getting it back. Right? But there's a lot there that we can study, that we can examine. And once I began to accept that reality and began to take my time walking through the temples, looking at the columns, and imagining the architectural energy that went into creating it, the engineering skills that went into designing it, all the artists and craftspersons that were responsible for building these temples that have stood for thousands and thousands of years. And I began to see this place, or try to see this place through the eyes of the people who created it when it was brand new. And doing that made me realize that we, so-called modern human beings, are literally functioning on a subhuman level. That the people who created this ancient culture and civilization knew how to manifest the aspects of God, the creator, whatever term you want to use. They knew how to manifest that knowledge within themselves so that they literally created heaven on earth. And when you walk through these temples and see the monuments, you will see the handiwork of people who knew how to manifest God within them, and they built for eternity. That's one of the reasons why Europeans over the last 3,000 years have been trying to claim Kemet for themselves. Because it is there where you can find the record of what men and women did when they were more closely connected to the creative force than we could ever imagine. And that's a model for us to aspire to recreate in our minds, in our hearts, and in our lives today. Medu Netra wasn't just a form of communication. Medu Netra, God's words or God's writings, was an ideographic form of communication which used symbols that represented ideas as opposed to letters, which mean nothing until they're strung together in a series that they form words, and words in a series form sentences, and sentences form concepts and ideas. But each component of Medu Netra was a symbol, was a complete thought, and a spiritual force in and of itself. It is a different way of connecting with a source of power, which is one of the reasons why when they wrote the language, they didn't write it in vowels. They never wrote with vowels. Why? Because vowels, A-E-I-O-U, vibrate at a rate 600 times faster than consonants. Vowels, when properly placed in between consonants, give power to those words and are able to bring into manifestation from the spiritual realm whatever it is you focus your energy on creating. This concept was so powerful that they did not insert the vowels, because not just anybody could handle this power, this force, this knowledge. You had to be trained. You had to go through an educational process that endured for over 40 years before you were qualified to begin to speak it, to write it, to use words, to bring creation into the physical form. So if you look at others who have copied from us, who have stolen from us, they tried as best they could to emulate some of these same principles, concepts, and ideas. So when you look at the Hebrew alphabet, which was derived from Medu Netra, you notice that Hebrew, like Medu Netra, does not have vowels, only consonants. And if you read a Torah and read the commentary of the words, each character has a profound meaning. And when you string these characters together to form words, and you are writing on a symbolic level, a level that is, you're writing and you're communicating with a spiritual force that the average person knows nothing about. This knowledge, this power was derived from Kemet. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, these people who created the Hebrew alphabet didn't have all the clues, didn't have all the keys. They had enough to overpower those who had nothing, but they had nothing in comparison to the true source of that knowledge and information. The tradition, if you look at Medu Netra, many of the characters in Medu Netra come directly from nature, objects that were in your immediate environment. It is from the word Necher, which means principle or aspect of the divine. It is from the word Necher that we have derived the word nature. So when looking at the Creator's creations and using them as a modality for writing, thinking, and speaking, you could begin to tap into this creative power and bring things into manifestation as well. But you had to understand the power in the words. You had to go through a process to be trained to speak correctly, to write correctly, so that you did not abuse this relationship with the Creator or their power. The spiritual philosophy was based on a view of the cosmos as the domain of the divine. And since human beings were a part of the cosmos, human beings were also divine. Divinity exists within us. As human beings, we never fell from grace. We are never disconnected from the Creator. We can always begin to reconnect if we know how. African spirituality teaches us that we are spiritual beings who are currently having a divine human experience. And when you know who you are, then you can use this knowledge, you can use this language, you can use this speech to build, to add to your character, to add to your community, as opposed to exploiting others. Rituals were designed in order to maintain connections between community and the spirit. African spiritual traditions teaches that spirit manifests itself in everything. The creative God created the world and everything in the world, and it means that everything that we see, everything that we touch, contains within it aspects of that creation. So if you look at things with the right eye, when you see them, you see the Creator in those things. If you look at your brother and your sister and know that the Creator exists within them, then when you communicate with them, you don't communicate with bitches and hoes. You're communicating with God. And so when you talk, you all should be having a higher form of communication so that the God in you can communicate with the God in the other person. And you can transform your consciousness through a higher level of communication. That's what we have to get back to. Africans believe that all life is ritual. All life is ritual. And rites of passages helped us move from one phase of life to the other, if life is cyclical. And as you move through this circle, you move from one phase of physical development, one phase of mental development, one phase of spiritual development into another, into another, into another. And in each phase of development requires that you learn, that you master new information, and that you prove yourself to be proficient in the utilization of this information before you can move to the next level. It's all designed to raise your consciousness so that you can give back to those within your community. And so we go through this process. We move from spirit to birth, to maturation, to adulthood, to death, to ancestorhood, to spirit, and to rebirth. This is the cycle of life. And while much of this information has been lost, has been stolen, has been distorted, there are occasions when we can get glimpses of this knowledge. And I cite, for example, the book Spirit of Intimacy, written by Malidoma Somé, the wife of Malidoma Somé, who's from Burkina Faso. And she talks about a ritual that they have within their community, a ritual called the hearing ritual, where when a woman is pregnant, she goes to see a priest. And a priest engages this pregnant woman in this ritual that is designed to allow the mother to communicate with the spirit of the ancestor that is in her womb. And through this ritual, the mother not only communicates with this ancestor in her womb, but she understands, she knows who that ancestor is, that is, who is now coming back through her to be born into the community to continue the work that they left undone. So knowing who is coming back means that you know who this person is. You know what their destiny is in life. You know what name to give this child. So that when this child is born, there are other components of this ritual. So when this child is born, you take that object that was the object that belonged to the ancestor that they have come back as, and you bury that object at a specific location. And when that child reaches a certain age, 13 or 14, that child is to go to find that object that was buried. And when that child retrieves that object, it is confirmation that that ancestor has returned. This is a ritual that has been going on for thousands of years. It means that these Africans in Burkina Faso understand aspects of life and death and rebirth that we have forgotten or have not been allowed to understand. What's also interesting is if you read her husband's book, Malidoma Somé's book, his first book, of Water and the Spirit, he talks about this spiritual relationship that existed between his father, who was the chief priest of his village, and other priests who worked with him. Wonderful, fascinating account of African spirituality and how Africans develop individuals and community based on their understanding of who they were. An important part of this book is the story of French priests coming into the village, stealing children, taking the children away to monasteries where they were taught to forget their pagan ways, taught the Bible so that they can come back and convert their family members to Christianity. Malidoma as a child was stolen and spent a number of years in one of these monasteries. And he talked about, this book is about 10 years old, and he talked in this book about things that were happening in this monastery that I've been reading in newspapers for the last 3 or 4 months, about little boys being raped, little boys being molested by teachers